Hi everyone. Today we're going to speak about how to measure the ROI of your marketing channels. Before we start, let me please introduce myself. My name is Maria. I'm the sales development representative. And this is my colleague Max. He's head of product.
Hi everybody.
So tell us please, how is the sound? Is everything okay? Please mark it in the chat. Are you with us there?
Yeah, let us know you see us. Thanks.
Okay. So here are some heads up. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. You can write them in the chat, or you can also send them to our email. This is mail@owox.com in your chat. Before we start and go to the slides, let me please tell you a few words about our company. Okay. So first of all, we specialize in implementing Google Analytics 360 Suite and Google BigQuery. We also develop OWOX BI services in Google Cloud Platform. And finally, we organize professional events. So what's on the agenda today? We'll cover the difference between ROI and ROAS. We'll also talk how and why do you need to measure the ROI for each channel. We'll tell you how to save your time by automating the ROI reports. And finally, we'll show you some comprehensive reports, and we'll talk about how to act on these insights. So before we dig deeper, please share with us how are you evaluating efficiency of your ad efforts? Do you look at impressions, clicks, or perhaps any other metrics? Please write your answers in the chat. It's really interesting to know how you're doing that. Let's figure out what basically it means. ROI, ROAS, and ROMI. What is the difference between them? ROI is the widely used metric and is generally used to define success of the campaign. It takes into account the money earned once expenses have been subtracted. When calculating ROI, it's very important not to forget about gross margins and order completion rates, because forgetting about that is the common mistake. Imagine you're a fashion retailer and your order completion rate is 80%. So how do you consider those 20 in your calculations? The ROI target is to answer the question if the returns justify the investments. And it shows general results, unlike the ROMI. So ROMI tells you how much cash flow you generate for every dollar you spend on marketing. And we can make a conclusion that ROI gives you a general understanding of the financial situation, while the ROMI is only about marketing.
Okay, so basically, let me ask it. So what marketing investment and investment basically are the same, and we can say that ROI and ROMI will show same values when we calculate them?
Yeah. Actually, if one person asks you what the ROI of your marketing is, and another one asks you what your ROMI is, they are meaning the same.
Okay, but there is another, the ROAS is calculated differently, as I understood, yeah?
Yeah, ROI, this is the ratio of net profit and costs, and ROMI is the ratio of net profit and marketing costs. So let's jump to ROAS then, what it means. This is the ratio of profit and costs. And you can calculate ROAS if you know the cost and profit per conversion. And this is where it gets tricky, because it's easy to calculate the cost of clicks or impressions, but impressions do not always deliver how efficient your strategy is. And you need also to consider all operating costs, which are associated with an ad channel, and only then you can properly calculate ROAS. For instance, you have such expenses like hiring staff to process orders, or more space to store inventory, etc. And it's of course not so easy to collect everything and to put everything all together. But there is more to the story. Exactly how you calculate revenue per ad channel is derived from the ad channel you're using. And each marketing tool has its own API and its own time to process data. That's why it can be also tricky. So tell us, please, how you cope with that, which metrics you're looking at to assess ad efficiency. We are eager to know that. And so in order to calculate those metrics properly, we need to gather data from different sources. This is actually where it can be also a challenge, because the customer behavior data is stored in GA. Your gross margins and transactions data are stored in CRM. Your costs are across different ad services. And our clients are coming to us. Well, they're coming not to the stage when they're our clients yet, but they do not understand how to put it all together and what to do with all that stuff. Because we're used to track everything, all the data that is possible to track, whilst we're working just with a part of it. And so the marketers need to collect and analyze data from different sources, making some adjustments and optimizations across all those processes and channels. And a company uses on average around 5 ad channels. And as I mentioned earlier, every tool has its own API and its own speed of data refreshment. And ads data in one source is available on an hourly basis, whilst the other source updates data once a day, and it becomes an additional pain.
Okay, Maria, let me clarify that for myself. Did I understand you correct? So I have to collect the cost data from all the marketing platforms.
Yep.
I collect data from some analytics service that I use to collect user behavior.
Right.
And integrate CRM data to understand which transactions were canceled or completed successfully, and only then I can start measuring the correct ROI.
Yeah, that will help you to get an overall picture of what's going on and to trace all the steps in the customer journey. We'll cover it later in the webinar. So again, such metrics as impressions or cost per click, they are not enough to build a complete picture. They don't show the connection with the results, unlike ROI or CAC. And this is where I would like to ask you guys, what's your CAC? Who is measuring it? It's a very important metric which is forgotten about usually. And so this is the amount of money spent on advertising to generate a sale. For example, if you spend $1,000 in Facebook ads and generate 10 sales from them, your CAC is $100, right? But it's not that easy, because your customers, they don't come from one channel or buy just after one campaign. And with Google Analytics alone, you can't see the amount of money you've spent acquiring one user, since cost data and behavior data, they're stored in different reports and you just cannot match them.
Oh my God, I'm afraid you're gonna mention that we have to use some attribution model in here, yeah?
Perhaps later, not in this stage. Okay, so getting back to the ROI, I can bet some of you were dreaming about the report where you can see the ROI for a channel. And actually you have such a report. It's in GA, in cost analysis section, but the drawback here that it won't consider gross margin and offline data. And the way that we are offering here is gathering all the data in BigQuery, because it provides you with the possibility to consider data from all your touch points. Let's talk a little about methods of cost data import. The first method is familiar to you guys. This is manual import, and you usually create a data set in GA, you prepare a file, and you upload this file. And I think you all understand how time-consuming it can be and the amount of errors that it can bring. But of course, it can be useful at times, because you do not need anyone other's help, and you can do it on your own and see everything in one place. The second way is when data is prepared manually and its upload is done automatically. And here is where Max will tell you more details about it.
Yeah, I'll start from the semi-automatic import. So it's a little bit more advanced than manual one. you do not just upload CSV, but you can use a one-click solution. And basically, we developed it for ourselves initially, and then shared with our customers. And it's called OWOX Data Upload Add-on. So probably most of you use spreadsheets on a daily basis. Well, our marketers do, and they collect aggregated data on each advertising platform there. And it's very easy when they can import the data from spreadsheets to Google Analytics instantly in one click. So I'll show you how you can do that. This is an example of a table in your spreadsheets where you collect all the information about ad cost, impressions. You can add clicks as well, and define all the traffic source dimensions to import it further on to Google Analytics. So here you will open an add-on from the menu. You can get it from the Google spreadsheet. Just type data upload. And after installing it, open it from the menu add-ons. Click upload data, and you'll see this sidebar where you have to select your account, a property, and data set. Remember that you have to create the data set for importing data in Google Analytics. And after clicking a button, you'll get all this data imported directly into your Google Analytics account. And you can check that Google Analytics started processing this data. It can take up to 24 hours for Google Analytics to process it and provide it into your reports. Well, since it was a little bit of data, Google Analytics already processed it, and it will soon appear in my cost analysis reports in Google Analytics. Well, this is an easy and fast solution you can start with. Right here, if you don't collect your costs, but you have them somewhere, keep them in Google Spreadsheet and use an add-on to upload it to Google Analytics. More advanced solution is OWOX pipelines. It is an automated pipeline to collect all the data from your advertising platform. It can be Facebook, Instagram, Criteo, Outbrain, etc., and import it in an automatic way to Google Analytics. Let's look how the setting up of this pipeline will look. So here I'm in our demo project. I'll click on a new pipeline. After you enter to the product, you'll be created a trial project and head on to a pipeline page and click create pipeline, and you'll end up at the same page. You click the source which you want to import. In this case, I want to import Facebook data. So I'll be asked to provide access to Facebook. Then I'll select a destination service, Google Analytics, select account web property of Google Analytics, and that's it. In the end, my Facebook pipeline will be created. And let me see, I just created it a moment ago to showcase for you. It will look like this in the beginning, since there is no history yet, but it will aggregate history the more you're using it, and it will provide more and more data to your Google Analytics account. A part of that, we have a solution to import your advertising cost statistics, not only to Google Analytics, but to Google BigQuery. It is a more advanced solution. I'm not familiar if all of you are using Google BigQuery. Let us know if you do, if you're familiar with this tool. We are fans of Google BigQuery and using it a lot. It allows us to collect all of our data there and then decide what types of dashboards we need to build, what type of analysis to do. All of the data is already there, available for analysis.
So, Max, do I understand you correctly? You can also put historical data, cost data, I mean.
Yeah, we set up pipeline. Our marketers set up pipelines for campaigns they manage in Facebook, for example. As soon as they started, the data starts aggregating in Google BigQuery. And then whenever they need some analysis, the data is already there, available for analysis of them and build some beautiful dashboards that they need and provide them with some metrics.
That sounds great.
Yeah, well, basically, when you start importing data to Google Analytics, you also get all the historical data for 6 months of a historical period. It will be more than enough to start analysis right after setting up the pipeline. Additionally to importing data, we are really looking important to your consistency of your data. Consistency will provide you with the correct data in your reports eventually. So at the process of importing data, while we are parsing your advertising campaigns from Facebook or other platforms, we check the UTM tags of your advertising URLs. And whenever you do some mistakes, like here in an example, there are 2 more question symbols, and they should have been replaced with ampersand symbols. And it's an error. You will not get correct data in Google Analytics, and your ROI analysis will be corrupted further on. So you'll see little notifications while your pipeline is importing data, saying that some of your data was imported to Google Analytics, but to a different source medium because there were some errors in UTM parameters. Pay attention to these little notifications and correct your UTM tags as soon as possible to be able to further on analyze this data in the reports. Google provides you with the tool campaign URL campaign builder that allows you to easily try and construct the correct URL for your advertising campaigns. Well, let's switch from collecting data to dashboarding eventually. After we have all the data in Google Analytics, we can start from cost analysis reports. This is the place to start. This is the most basic one. I'm sure most of you have seen this report, and if you've started already collecting cost data, you already used it. This is the report that will provide you with all the basic metrics. Besides this, you can also set up a dashboard with all the metrics you're paying attention to, order values, revenue, conversions, ROAS, etc. And when you use Google Analytics, you have to understand what attribution model is used when the value is attributed to some source medium, because it influences ROAS. Well, in the default case, Google Analytics is attributing a value by last interaction attribution model. And it means that the more influence the channel has in the end of the user path, the more value it will be provided in Google Analytics reports. You can switch and compare in model comparison tool report last interaction model with first click model, for example, or a position based, and see what is a huge difference between the ROAS for the same campaign with different attribution models. For example, if you analyze affiliate traffic that obviously behaves better in the end of the user path, it will be shown much better ROAS with last interaction and very little ROAS with first click model. So pay attention to your attribution model when you're doing ROI analysis. Besides Google Analytics reports, thanks to the data collected in Google BigQuery, we can collect tables and reports, build reports with a true ROI. In OWOX BI, we provided you with a solution called Smart Data, where you can type a question and it will understand the metrics and dimensions from the question. And based on the knowledge of the pipelines you've set up in OWOX BI, it will provide you with an answer to your question. So for example, here, I've asked the question, what was the ROAS, ad cost, ROI by campaign and user type the last 30 days? And it is showing me the report based on my question. So here you can see the difference between ROAS and ROI, first of all. As Maria told us before, these metrics are a little bit different. And in this calculation, we also included the CRM data that tells us basically what revenue was eventually attributed to which campaigns, and it includes only completed transactions. If you're a little bit familiar with Google Analytics logic, when your transaction is sent to Google Analytics and cancelled after that, it will not change status in Google Analytics, and Google Analytics will still say that you got that revenue. Having data in Google BigQuery allows us to include these cases into analysis and provide you with the true ROI.
Max, see, we have a couple of questions. I guess it's time to make a break. So first one, can I import data without any help of our dev team? Well, thanks for the question. It's really a good one. Yes, you can do that because basically our tools, they are like self-help tools, and they work out of box and can be set up very quickly. And please write to our email. I will share the guide how to do that. It's just 3 or 4 steps and you'll get the first data already on the next day. And the second one, Max, I guess this is for you. Is it possible to import costs for SEO?
Yeah, for SEO traffic, you can also import costs. And it's important to pay attention to those costs from your marketing budget. So let me switch to our demo project. Here in a list of pipelines, we have a pipeline called from other sources to Google Analytics. And in this case, we mean under other sources, we mean all the sources that we haven't automated yet. So if you have some source in Analytics that don't have costs imported, we will provide you with a feature to set up the cost. For example, we spent $100 to Bing CPC, and it will be further on imported to Google Analytics. And here you can also provide costs that eventually you spend for optimizing your website, for getting better positions in search. And after you define this amount here, these costs will also be imported to Google Analytics. And you will see that some ROI is calculated for your organic traffic as well. And eventually, it will help you to analyze the importance of the traffic and the costs related to it. Well, do we have any other questions, Maria?
No, not yet, I guess.
Okay, let's continue with the presentation. And here, I think Maria will tell you a few words about her favorite Google Sheet that she's using to analyze different attribution models.
Yeah, thanks. I'm a huge fan of Google Sheets indeed. So the following table demonstrates the main indicators of advertising campaigns. This is the number of sessions, the number of transactions, and ROAS. It's also divided by source, medium, and campaign to track the efficiency of each one. And we see that there are no costs for the first 5 ad channels, and basically there is also 0 for ROAS. This table also shows us the performance of the campaigns according to the funnel-based model, which is developed by OWOX BI, and the standard J last click. The campaigns which are colored green, not a lot of them though, but still, for example, Facebook CPC campaign 2 is underestimated by last click model, and the value is not attributed to it because this campaign is usually not the one to close the customer journey before the transaction. And sometimes it happens that marketers decide to stop this campaign, but the conversions drop because those campaigns are effective in attracting new visitors to the website. As for direct marked campaigns, they perform well according to last click, but they are overestimated according to funnel-based. And how does it happen? They bring more value at the lower stages of the funnel and help to make a purchase. But in general, they do not contribute that much in the whole funnel. So with the help of this useful report, you can decide which your campaigns are performing better at different stages and manage your budget more effectively. And it's really important to know how revenue is attributed by which model when you evaluate ROI, whether it's last click, linear, or some other, because it can change the picture dramatically and ROI can be totally different.
Yeah, indeed, and we see that after this comparison. Let's, you know what I think? Let's make a deal. You start collecting cost data in your Google Analytics reports after our presentation and our webinar, and we will tell you a little bit more about attribution modeling and attribution analysis in a later webinar. Our colleagues will be excited to tell you there's a lot of topics important to understand while doing attribution analysis.
Good deal.
Yeah, so there is one more thing I wanted to share with you today. It is using OWOX BI Smart Data to build Data Studio or Power BI reports. Whenever you're asking a question, there is an opportunity for you to get the raw data in Google BigQuery, since it's used for building your answer. And you can export this SQL query provided you by our product and use it in a Data Studio to import the same data there. And already in the Data Studio, you can build a dashboard that you can share with your company, with your colleagues, or with your customers. And it is really easy and transparent solution because you have access to all of your raw data. You have an SQL query that provides you with the metrics that you want to see. And you can use your everyday tool that you're familiar with for visualization to provide great visualization to your customers. That's it for today. We've collected some useful links about the products and services that we shared in this webinar. Please visit them after we share a presentation with you. And we wanted to remind you that on October 2nd, there is going to be a next webinar about attribution modeling. Please subscribe for that webinar. It's going to be really important when you understand attribution modeling and can measure true ROI, understanding all the differences and nuances here.
Wait, Max, we forgot also to tell about the beautiful pricing plan that we have.
Indeed. Let me share a screen of our new pricing that we have set up for you recently, and that it will allow you to import data from all of your sources into Google Analytics. And it will cost you only $60. You can start importing your data right now using 14 days of trial. And after that, switch to Google OWOX BI basic plan. It costs $60 and you have no limits on the number of pipelines that you can use for importing data. Now let's see if there are any questions left unanswered.
No, don't see them. Well, thanks guys for your time. It was really a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So see you next time on our attribution modeling webinar.